It is the Anfield Wrap. Neil Atkinson here, and we are this week in association with, and for many weeks, our very good friends at Peloton. Peloton is the official digital fitness partner of Liverpool Football Club, and we're delighted to also be a partner of theirs as well. There's a community on a number on Peloton, hashtag TAW Peloton Club, and there's a group as well, and there's some monthly challenges on there if you want to come and be part of the whole thing with us, and also in the Telegram group, there's that going on as well. If you go to John on that, John will sort you out and get you in the Telegram group, and other groups as well that are going on all around it. We are empowering people with Peloton this year, which I'm very pleased about. We scored together. I had a good go on it last week as well, enjoyed myself massively. There's thousands of workouts, there's 14 disciplines, there's absolutely loads and loads of stuff going on, so do please take the opportunity to do so. onepeloton.com/blogs/teams-and-challenges, where you can see some of that sort of stuff as well through all of that if you want to see that story. I want to do the story of Liverpool this weekend, or the Liverpool weekend in the round, because obviously we'll be talking about what else happened at the top of the table, but Phil Blundell, more on you to come. You were at Bournemouth.
It's a long way, right?
Yeah, you were at Bournemouth for Bournemouth 0, Liverpool 2. It was one of our toughest remaining games on paper, and then it proved to be one of our toughest remaining games. I would argue our toughest game in the round since we went to the Emirates on the grass.
Yeah, names carry a lot in football, don't they, in terms of how you think about a fixture. Whereas if that had been the same players who were playing the exact same way and they were called Tottenham, or they were called Chelsea, or they were called Newcastle, or they were called Aston Villa, you would have held Saturday in a far higher, I know not you personally, but people generally would have gone, oh, this is hard. It would have been on television as well. Wouldn't have been a 3 o'clock kickoff. And I think you saw both things of why Bournemouth are a good team and why Liverpool are a very good team. I think we got a very early warning in that we took one of the worst kickoffs I can probably remember ever taken, where we didn't go backwards, we went forward and we lost the ball and we turned it over, and all of a sudden they'd had a shot inside 15 seconds, and I was a bit like, maybe don't do that again. And I think it sort of made us cotton on very early to the fact that this was going to be...
went
berserk. I did as well. I was not
the big two, Phil.
Yeah. Well, to be fair, I think the player who, I can't remember, was it Trent who got it wrong?
Yeah.
I think he was in between me and Konate at this point, so it was probably, he got it from both sides. But yeah, that was a sort of an early warning shot. I mean, we do manage to have 2 shots that we possibly could have scored from at the other end inside the first 2 minutes as well. I think it was McAllister and Diaz.
Absolutely.
It was a set piece, I think, wasn't it?
One of the things about Phil was watching it and then sort of reflecting on it, watching some highlights, but not the match today highlights, because I'd like a realistic portrayal of the game.
Bizarre,
but watching the extended highlights, I was just stunned by the sheer pace of the game. It was one of the fastest games of football I can ever remember watching.
Yeah, it felt fast, but it almost felt like it was about to go faster in terms of, it sort of felt like both teams were aware that if we win the ball back here, we can go, because it was sort of, everyone was attacking with sort of 7 almost, and it felt like you win the ball in your own third, and all of a sudden both teams were pretty much 4-on-4 from 75, 80 yards out, and especially if a fifth man wins the ball, you were over, and you were very sort of, hang on, we've got a chance here. You saw it quite a lot in the first half, particularly from Liverpool's point of view, where I think there was a couple of times where Gravenberch and Szoboszlai and McAllister sort of hunted as a 3 and won the ball and got Liverpool on the front foot very aggressively, and it didn't quite work as intended in terms of what we did with the ball when we got it into sort of the final third. But it made Bournemouth think, and it's probably lessened their danger to a level in terms of I think they were very conscious as the game grew longer about how dangerous Liverpool could be if they got something wrong, and it probably made Liverpool's task a little bit easier, I thought, in terms of how it went. But I thought they were a good side. They're going to be, I'll be surprised if they're not in Europe next season, to be perfectly honest.
I'll be disappointed if they're not. Rob, the shape of the game, I thought all the way through, was Bournemouth looking to up it, and then Liverpool looking to grab control. And I think it happens in both halves. I think that Bournemouth come out second half, especially 45 to 55, 60, and they absolutely swarm all over Liverpool. Liverpool can't get out. They haven't got an out ball. But Liverpool then managed to sort of just drop a bit of anchor, get up, look after it a little bit more, and then, in essence, the Bournemouth effort that hits the post almost comes from nothing. There's not been any sustained spell of pressure at that point, like there was 45 to 60. But that was the tale of both halves, I thought. It was just more demonstrable in the second. Bournemouth trying to up it. Liverpool trying to keep control of it.
Yeah, it's very, very difficult to make sense of who Bournemouth are and what that game represents in the wider history of football just at this moment in time. Because we have the context of what's just preceded it, but I'd like to just have a bit of a future ball, a crystal ball to see exactly how it pans out for Bournemouth. There's a part of me that could sort of go, are they like one of those European sides who aren't one of the European top 12, 14, who come along every now and again? It's a Napoli one year or a Monaco another year, and you go, they've got a generation of players and a good manager, and they're just going to be effectively one of Europe's top 3 sides for the next 3 years, and we've all got to just do it just put up with it until we buy all their players. Honestly, they look. I don't think I've been, and I don't know where. This is why I'm saying it's difficult to separate out your anxieties and your preconceptions versus reality just in the here and now. Because for a while there, I thought I've not been as frightened watching a football match in which Liverpool have partaken since games against peak Man City. And I'm not exaggerating. I'm thinking back to that 13-14 game which we win 3-2 at Anfield that all but wins us the league. And when we're 2-0 up and they get back to 2-2 and there's 15 minutes after half time where David Silva and Aguero,
James Milner,
and it's just a complete. Semenyo and Kirkes looked like the best footballers I've ever seen against us as a combination for periods in that game. I thought they were unbelievably good, and it does speak to how well we dealt with that situation. But it's hard to know how well we dealt with it until you see how this plays out for them. I hope they go on to qualify for Europe, for the Champions League, because they quite frankly deserve it and can do it. And I came out of it, I thought, I can't remember when I last punched the air at the end of a 2-0. 2-0, you got daylight there at a ground like Bournemouth. If you win a game 1-0, the final whistle, you blow your fucking whistle, ref, and he does. You go, yes, you celebrate the final whistle like a goal. I wasn't far off it on that one, and that's because those bastards don't give up. They don't ever stop.
I did something on StatsBomb when I was doing review, Mo, and Bournemouth put in more pressures in, if you break the game into 15-minute chunks, the last 15 minutes. Yeah. After it went 2-0 down, they ran hard, then Jefferson came on, charged everything all around the pitch, and I remember thinking, when Endo comes on about 88, I remember just sort of thinking to myself, at 92, I was thinking, I hope this doesn't go 2-1, because all hell will break loose if it does. They are such an impressive outfit, and it isn't patronising to say it. I think it's important to say it. And, whilst we did manage to wrest bits of control during the game, it still doesn't mean that they don't still create chances. They're not still dangerous all the way through.
No, and Slot kind of references beforehand. He said that he couldn't believe in the first game when we were 3-0 up at half time. He thought, okay, we'll be able to have some control, knock it around. No chance. Absolutely no chance. They just would not die, and they wouldn't quit. And you have to give them credit for that. That's not just about them having belief in their way of playing football. That's what the managers put in their minds, is that no game is done until the last whistle blows, and we can always cause damage to every single team. And the way that they've been so able to do that to every big team, so like the top 7 league, they're top of it. I mean, maybe they're not anymore after that game we won, but they were top of it going into that game. Proved that they knew that big teams don't scare them. And we have to remember, this is in the context of the fact that half of their best team are in that lounge watching above.
Yeah.
They aren't actually on the pitch. Like, Wataru's been playing up front, was meant to be a left wing back. They've got Lewis Cook, who's a centre mid, playing a right back. And it's just all a bit of make do and mend from one perspective. But you'd never know it to watch them play football.
Well, but the thing is, Mo, their quality and desire shines through. But then, as Phil said before, well, then so does ours.
Yeah.
Because if we think they're that good, well, we won 2-0. We had more chances, better chances. We were more in control of the occasion. We were away from home. I'll point that out as well. I think everyone, I include the Bournemouth players, no one wants to get beat. I think everyone gets to come off the pitch feeling a credit to themselves. But Liverpool's players, I think, get to get off that pitch, to use Rob's punch the air point, and feel absolutely fantastic after that.
Yeah, because I imagine that they would have been told exactly how important and how dangerous this game is all week during training. They would have known.
Or telling each other.
Yeah, exactly that. And you have to, when you come off a pitch and you know that you've been in a real tough game, you've had a real tough battle, but you've come out of it. And not only have you come out of it, well, you won, but you've won 2-0 at a game where it could have really gone either way, and you've come through the fire. Those are the ones when, if this season ends as we all hope to, they'll be sitting in their lounge with a few beers thinking, God, do you remember Bournemouth? God, yeah, do you remember like 55 minutes on Bournemouth? We were looking at each other thinking, bloody hell, this is a little bit hairy, isn't it? But we got through it. And then we went on, we bounced and we went on a run. it reminds me, that was the kind of game where at the end of it, in my childhood, Manchester United won that game, and you see Alex Ferguson running on, waving his little arms, going, yes, going on, giving everyone a big hug, because it's a massive win. A game that you've had to go through the fire and you've come out the other side. And we said last week about Ipswich, about Liverpool earning the right to play by winning the physical battle. They did that again against Bournemouth. Not quite in terms of snapping into tackles, but in terms of always being there, the diligence with which they played the game. Like, we're going to go on to talk about Ryan Gravenberch, but he didn't let Kerkez out of his sight. He knew that his job was to make sure that Trent didn't always have two guys in front of him to deal with. Everybody knew what their principal job was, but they also knew that they had to look out for this other thing, and they had to do 2 or 3 different things at once. And everybody just was able to say, yep, I can do that. I want to do that, and let's go.
Where it ends up, Rob, is feeling Liverpool go 9 points clear since being pegged back, obviously, because of Arsenal's win. But, 9 points when everyone had played the same number of games is 9 points. You can't, in a way, you can't argue with it. Liverpool have got to go and do that again, and the next opportunity they get to do that makes it permanent. It's worth remembering that. But this, if they get a result on Thursday against Tottenham, it means that in February they'll play away to Bournemouth, done, 3 points in the bag, Everton, Villa and Manchester City. All of those games will happen in February. To me, they look in the best possible nick to be dealing with those 4 away games at the moment. If you can get through the trial by fire that is Bournemouth, you can do the others, and they're very varied challenges in a couple of ways, and one of them's obviously a massive bit of local difficulty, but they look to me at the minute in the perfect nick to run to the tape.
Well, we've done. I'd throw into the sort of. There's Bournemouth, Brentford. And
all we do is play away games.
Yeah, and it just feels mad.
You see, we're playing 8 of our 19 away games between the 4th of December and the 19th of February if we win on Thursday. That is ridiculous. That's nearly half of them in 2.5 months of a 9-month season.
In a sense, though, I think it's serving our purpose because we're in a sort of rhythm. Away is home. It is all we know. In a sense, Ipswich felt like a friendly that we played in between these away games. It was, but we've played. But I'd add Forest to the recent trilogy of very similar. There's different.
Forest is also the closest we've played to Anfield since September.
Geographically, wow. But although Forest and Bournemouth and Brentford, they all had different stylistic challenges. They're all fucking tough mentally. They're all you had to win your battles games. And I look at, and I know everyone's going to be anxious about the derby, I am too, but I don't look at the likes of Everton away and Villa away as bigger tests than going to the likes of Bournemouth.
I don't think they are. No, I agree.
They're just, and without wanting to tempt fate, the weakest of the lot look like Manchester fucking City just right now, in the here and now. I mean, they have an ability to correct themselves and they have good players, and let's not be complacent. But I don't think we're facing, on paper, you wouldn't say Everton away, Villa away, City away is at the same level as Bournemouth, Brentford and Forest. But fucking hell, it is. If we keep our cool focus, we can actually be more convincing in those ways, I think.
Yeah, if you treat the games in isolation, as in just one-off games of football, they're not particularly intimidating. It's just the constant, here you go, here's another one, here's another one, here's another one. Like Villa away and Man City away in the space of, 4 days wouldn't be a particularly nice thing to have. But you just got to get over it and go. And
that's if we qualify for the League Cup final.
Yeah, exactly. And we play one league game in March as well, which is insane.
Really?
Yeah. But then if Villa moves, we've only got 2 as it is. I think we've only got 2 as it is, haven't we?
Yeah, it's only currently it's
only Southampton and Villa.
It'll only be Southampton and Villa.
But the flip side of that is that we were saying all this in November about the run of home games with Leverkusen, Villa, City, and Real Madrid, and we handled that better than anyone.
Yeah,
those 4 teams all came to Anfield and went away without scoring a goal between them. So I think sometimes when you have that kind of mountainous run to look ahead to, as you said, Rob, we are in the best form to be able to deal with that. I think you can we've got a group of players who run towards those kind of challenges rather than gulp when they're standing at the bottom of them. So I think we can have confidence that we can go into this and really attack them.
Absolutely. One of the reasons why we've got that confidence, Rob, is Mo Salah.
Yeah.
I mean, the penalty is certain. It's worth pointing out he's missed one at that ground. And I think that's why he takes extra long to compose himself. He missed one a couple of seasons ago there. But the finish for the second is just absolutely sumptuous. But the other thing is he's so involved in the game. I'm used to footballers who find the back of the net with regularity. They often crown performances. Salah's at the heart of this performance all the way through. He touches the ball more than any other Liverpool player. His on-ball value for his passing, as per StatsBomb, is the highest of any Liverpool player over the course of the game. There's a little bit of a thing I thought for us where I felt like, God, we can't keep Semenyo out the action. But imagine being them, because they couldn't keep Mo Salah out the action. And I think in the end, as much as I respect and appreciate Semenyo, well, the difference between Semenyo and Mo Salah, you actually get to see it in virtue of the fact that the game finishes Bournemouth 0, Liverpool 2.
Yeah, I mean, Salah's elite class is vindicated by that scoreline and by his ultimate contribution. I think in the first 20-25 minutes, although we were getting Salah on the ball, they were getting Semenyo on the ball a hell of a lot. And it did feel in that moment, I was saying to myself, if there's a natural successor to Mo Salah, I know Semenyo can play both sides. I wouldn't mind half having the fella up the other end of the pitch because he looks a fucking live wire. But Salah, as is the want with modern Salah, just finds this way to influence football matches in a way that others can only dream. And I keep coming back to that quote he gave earlier in the season about the tip Arsene Wenger gave him. I was trying to riddle out when it was. The tip is, apparently Wenger sat him down and he said to Wenger, "What makes a great player, Arsene?" And I probably expected some sort of glib answer. And Arsene said, "A player who, however it's going for him, manages to mentally stay in the game and manages to then find a way of influencing it, regardless of what kind of time he's personally having." And it feels like this season, game after game, we're seeing examples of that. And I don't think we saw it last season, by the way, with Mo Salah. I think we had moments where he was doing really well, giving complete-ish performances, and games where, I think of Brentford away, where he has a good hour or 45 then. He's unbelievable, probably the best he's played in 3 years in that 45. This season, you can pick 20-minute spells in a game and go, I don't think Mo's doing much today. And I think there were bits of that. Mo's getting on the ball a lot more than some of his quieter days. But there wasn't a great deal of impact, say, in the first half, apart from that delicious outside of the foot pass to Trent for the header that he might have scored. But by the second half, suddenly Mo's getting in positions. There was a little dribble he went on. Well, fucking hell. He does one more of those to these, and these are finished. But when it lands at his feet then, when Curtis finds him in that position, you think, he is now going to plonk this, isn't he? And he plonked the cunt. He just plonked it. Sorry to the sponsors there and everybody else.
Everyone's fine, don't worry at all.
He just did. He's sort of back in that zone. Don't look at me like that, Andrew. We've all been in locker rooms. He wasn't getting that bend. He hasn't been getting that bend into the corner right in the way he did in his first two-season pop argument.
He had one at Forest late on, didn't he, where he just doesn't quite get it right, and it's pretty much in the same position, same idea. He just doesn't quite.
God, I remember going back to as far just to talk about that particular aspect of Mo's game, because this is the goal he scores. It was in his first season in particular. It was the quintessential Mo Salah goal. I think doesn't he get two of them against Roma or something? At least one, and he.
Well, there's one where he won the Puskas Award.
Yeah, against Everton. In the COVID season, sort of our last hurrah when we thought we were going to win the league and then didn't win a game after it, against Palace, we were in 7-0 at Palace, I think. And he comes on, I think, and bends one in, and I went, God, I haven't seen him do one of those for a while. And that was back in 2020, tail into 2020. So, in this last season alone, it's 4 or 5 of that style of goal. It's a hell of a weapon to rediscover in his late period. But late period Salah is delicious. I think they'll write books about it in years to come.
There's something I think with it, Phil, where the big thing that Liverpool are able to do, that they do really well, and it's obviously to do with Salah because he is the person who's at the centre of it. Liverpool are good at just helping him get pockets. So that whole break, every aspect of the play is meant to make people think, well, this ball isn't at the end going to get past to Mo Salah. And then at the end it gets past to Mo Salah. And everything, every run everyone's making, every bit of passing, everyone's body languages, it's not going to end up over there. And then all it takes is Curtis Jones pops up, opens his body, and Salah's got space. And so much of what we're doing really, really well at the minute is not just getting Salah on the ball, but getting Salah on the ball where he's got a little bit of space.
Yeah, I think a lot has changed with regards to this in the last couple of months, I think. So I always think back to I say always, it's not that long ago, but that Fulham game, for example, at Anfield, we didn't start very well. We then went down to 10 men, but when we hadn't started very well and found ourselves 1-0 down, he looked isolated. They were doing a lot of things down his side. And I sort of feel like if you go back and play that game again, it would look very different in terms of how Liverpool team, even with the same 11 players, set up. And part of that is down to what we're doing with regard to sort of not carrying Salah through it, but sort of facilitating what he is really good at and what he's now not quite as good at. Like, he doesn't have the ability to get back in and really help his right back like you would most of the time expect from someone in that position. But what we're doing is, for example, you heard the manager talk about moving Gravenberch over, did that. Szoboszlai does a lot down that side as well. The centre forward is doing a bit as well, and we look, the ball looks more like it's easier to be on that side. I think there's been large portions of the last sort of 6 weeks, 2 months where he's looked a bit too isolated for me, and some left backs have found it quite not simple to shut him down, but sort of when he's got the ball, he's nowhere to go because his teammates are just not really there quick enough. And by the time his teammates got there, there's 2 defenders got back. It really didn't look like that on Saturday. It looked like it felt to me like with them all having the week off, they'd worked on something. I know the manager wasn't there, but I'm sure there was a coach still there. There was people, the video analysts were still been there, and it felt like it looked different to me in terms of how it was structured around him. And when you can do that, it makes it so much easier for him because you want him on the ball. I think this stat you've heard, he had the highest OBV with his passing. That happens because you can get him the ball and get him in dangerous areas.
And he can pass forward.
Which we weren't doing. We just weren't doing it. And now we are. And that is a real weapon to have. And you want to get the best out of your best players. And that is what that Liverpool team looked like on Saturday. It looked like a team who have gone, he's our best player. He's our way home. We're going to use him and we are going to set this team up to get the absolute best out of him. And there's 3 or 4 players, whether it's, we're going to come on to him later, talk about Diaz, there's Gravenberch, there's Trent, there's Szoboszlai. There's a lot of people whose game is sort of about, right, well, I'm really good. I can do this, I can do that. But I'm going to make his life easier. And if we make his life easier, his life's easier as well.
I think we're getting a lot of mileage off his link up with Szoboszlai in recent games.
Yeah,
I think you can take it back to the Tottenham game maybe before, but Szoboszlai running off the side of him, so he doesn't have to drop a shot his right shoulder and go outside his fullback. That's not an option for him for this period like Mo Salah, or he can do it, but he doesn't want to have to do it. The fullback thinks I'll show him inside up to a point onto the next man. He's got Szoboszlai running it. It's a brilliant option. And also I think Szoboszlai is a decoy because you might expect the nominal false 9 to be making that run for Salah. Luis Diaz is effectively playing as a midfield player. It's not just a false 9, I think. That's probably why his goals are dried up a bit more. He's not the one being asked to make that run off the back of. He has in the past. And where does he score a really nice goal at an angle a couple of months ago? Spurs, yeah.
The 6th Spurs it was.
But you're not seeing him make that run for Salah for quite a while. And I think it must be by design. But you're seeing Szoboszlai make it all the time.
And I think, because this is pretty much exactly what I was going to say, but I think it's not just that, it's the fact that Szoboszlai is now more decisive in his actions. He's now more believing and purposeful when he's making moves forward. The defence have to respect him. They have to now take him into account, and that it's helping create space for Salah. But also, like you say, it's giving him an option. If Salah doesn't feel like he's going to be able to get the space to get a shot away or beat 2 men and get to the byline, then he can give it to Szoboszlai, knowing that he's still going to be as dangerous. And I think we're in that situation where complementary football will start to come back, and it's one of my biggest things. When we are playing at our best, it's because when someone's good play is helping someone else play better, and it's helping someone else play better. And rather than it being working against each other, as it's been at times when we haven't been at our best, at the moment, we'll see it in the midfield. Everybody's skills help the other person's skills thrive. And when you've got that, and you've got attacking threats from all across the pitch, then teams just can't avoid giving space. And eventually they're going to give space to the best players.
Good point.
Moving along on that, Mo, there's the idea of Gravenberch through the game. He is, as you said before, he's helping out Trent in one sense. He's got his partnership with McAllister in the other. He's looking to feed Szoboszlai. Wants to at times get ahead of the ball. I think I'm now using the phrase due a goal. Due a goal. I'd like it to be a big goal. I'd like it to be a goal that everyone afterwards says that was a game winner at some point. But he, all-round performance to have kept possession, won what he's won in terms of when they've got the ball, won what he's won in terms of getting past people at their ground. This Bournemouth side, the way they play, is, I think, the ultimate testament to the form he's in at the moment.
Yeah, I mean, it's funny to say about him being due a goal. I said the same thing on the ratings just now to Josh. I would love to see him get a goal, because we were having a conversation about the fact that we feel like he needs a song. And the best time to get a song is when you just scored a goal. So I think it's almost like that will kind of feed into the other. But right now, he feels like a player who is aware of how important his role is to helping everybody else function, and he's willing to take on all of that extra responsibility. I said with the covering of Trent, not just in terms of when Kirkus has the ball and making him, putting a barrier between him and doubling up, but also chasing back into the box when he realises that someone's out of position. He's noticing what everybody else is doing and whether or not it means that, I need to go off and do an extra job over here, rather than just concentrating on his own job, which, to be honest, his own job is pretty important and got lots to it already. But he's in such a great flow at the moment that he's able to take on all these extra responsibilities without feeling like he's going to lose anything from his main accomplishments. And I think if you're an opposing side, we've seen over the course of the last few months, they've tried to put more barriers in front of him. They've tried to give him more things to do. They've tried to maybe put more players between him and Virgil van Dijk so he can't receive the ball, or they've tried to put a man marker on him so he just gives him someone else to hassle him the whole time. He's just shaking them all off. He's now coming back into his own, and again, if he can get a goal, if he can rediscover that attacking threat, then you would make him the outstanding player, not just midfield player, the outstanding player in the whole league, if you ask me.
Yeah, I think he's probably too pompous to say he's redefining the number 6 role, but he's not like a traditional number 6, or if he is, he's got more in common with the very best you've ever seen play that position. I've seen a few commentators and digging anywhere. They started saying he's like our metronome, and that winds me up, because I think the metronome description of the number 6 is a damn with praise kind of description of a number 6. Maybe a Makaleli, maybe even a Lucas Leiva, a limited technique footballer who just gives it very simple 5-yard sideways passes, quite frankly, who's consistent. I don't think he's that at all. People say he's press resistant. He doesn't need to be press resistant. He never gets into a position because his quickness of mind is so there that he's almost unpressable. I've noticed every other one of our centre mids. If Jones gets it, occasionally finds himself having to really shield it, dig himself out. McAllister the same. Even Szoboszlai. I can't remember when you see Gravenberch get properly pressed, because he doesn't allow it. He'll just, that clip that's getting shown over and over again on social media, where he gets that ball on the right touchline and does a pirouette and a drag back and somehow emerges with the ball in space. I mean, that's him in a nutshell, in a certain sense. You don't get to press him. He's just half a yard, 1 yard ahead of everything. I think he's getting better and better.
The thing I love about that clip as well is that he allows Diaz to take the ball off his toe. Now, if that's any of us, we've just done a move like that, I'm like, stay away. I'm about to score the best goal of all time. But no, because that's not his job. Diaz's job is to run with the ball. It's like, okay, done my bit.
Yeah, well, I mean, he was tremendous. I think Match of the Day, after they'd done all their nonsense, actually then went back and actually highlighted things that happened during the football match that Liverpool did well, which they decided not to put in the highlights package, but they did it in the analysis at the end, and the big part of it was the three midfielders and how much they impacted the game for us, of which he was, it's one of those where you might get past McAllister, Szoboszlai's sort of energy, and then you just run into him, and it's a bit like a wall, isn't it? And I think it's really interesting how he's adapted his game from the player that we thought we were signed. Well, that we did sign. Really, he's just a completely different player, and the skills he's using are not the ones that you were expecting to see just over a year down the line. And I think it's transfer deadline day today, and there's a lot of buy this player, and sometimes your best solution is just there. It might just not be the solution that you see, and he is the best example of that I think we've had in a very, very long time. I thought his use of the ball is excellent, his ability to win the ball is excellent, and it's a simplistic thing, but he's big. Having a big man in midfield, but it also makes McAllister's life a bit easier. Like if you were in a position where, I think last season, for example, when it was Endo and McAllister, I used to watch it and I'm a bit like, yeah, I like both of these, but I'm just not sure two people who are 5, 8, 9, 10-ish. I don't, I speak.
We
from
were
that.
bullyable.
I speak as someone who is that height myself, and I know that there's lots of people taller than me, particularly in this room, who I wouldn't win a header against. And that's just how it is. So when you're able to bring in someone who's 6'3", and built, and he's great on the ball, he's almost like perfect. If you'd gone out and signed someone, I feel like you'd have come with someone who was less good at lots of the things he's good at. It might have been one thing he's better at.
He'd be signing of the season across all the leagues.
There's something that you'd possibly be able to go out and get that are better at than he is. But then the other area of his game in the aggregate just make it ridiculous. He is absolutely superb.
You also think, sorry, just be quick. I also still feel, I felt it a little bit last season when I watched him. That's why I'm not hugely surprised he's been able to play the role, is that he could play every position on the pitch virtually.
Yeah.
I mean, we've put him between the centre backs. He's Gerrard-esque in that sense.
Well, I remember when they used to talk about like the Dutch youth system sort of 20 years ago, and they talk about how they do it. It's like, well, they just go and play every position at some point, and he looks like he's probably played centre back. He's brilliant. He's been brilliant at centre back in a couple of occasions this season. He's probably played up front. He's probably a good goalkeeper as well. He's probably not. He can't do.
Robertson, Phil, I thought was excellent all the way through the game, every phase of it. Really, I thought he was great backing up play. I thought he passed forward really well, ran forward really well with the ball. Dealt with his challenges going the other way. Even when Liverpool weren't quite absolutely 100% perfect, it felt to me like it was his most fully engaged and realised performance of the season.
Yeah, I think it was his best game of the season. Like, I don't think he's had a great season. I do think to some extent the way people are talking about him has been a little bit over the top. I don't think I haven't been watching him going, yep, he's our left back for years. But at the same time, some of the stuff that it's like, oh, get him off, he's useless, needs to be gone, etc., etc. I thought that was a little bit harsh. There's obviously been problems he's had, but I think it's been a little bit over the top. And Saturday for me demonstrated that there is still a lot for him to offer this Liverpool team, and probably next season as well, to be perfectly honest, in terms of just how good he is, how he fits into the system, how he works, how he deals with left backs, he's a left back, deals with right wingers, uses the ball. Just everything about his performance was excellent there, and it was more like what we were used to without being the sort of marauding man who'd overlap Sadio Mane and look to get crosses in. It was just it was a very good performance, and his relationship with Gakpo has improved over the last month or so, I'd say, because I think at the start of the season it was very obvious that Tsimikas and Gakpo got on well and Robertson and Diaz got on well, whereas now it looks a bit like you can sort of pair any combination of them and it works a lot better. So that's also a good thing.
I felt watching him at centre back against PSV in the week that had a positive effect for him. He was captaining the side, wasn't he?
Yes.
Maybe I'm forgetting some bad things he did. I don't remember him doing anything specifically bad in that game, but I thought you could see an authority in his game. A confidence came back into him. It's almost like with the pressure of not having some speedy bastard running in behind him in the way.
The pressure of the game not actually mattering.
Yeah. Well, yeah, it was. I felt, and this may be just seeing what you want to see, but I felt it felt a bit of a reset for him, and maybe that's what we saw going into the game. I also think, quite frankly, the sight of his successor on the other side of the pitch in Milos Kerkez would galvanise anybody, that threat. But I thought he was outstanding.
What does happen at PSV is he gets to exhibit his range of passing.
Yeah, that was what stuck out to me.
And that's then what he gets to do against Bournemouth.
Yeah, absolutely. I think I love the idea of him going back into training on Thursday and having a word with Virgil saying, see, you're not the only one who can do them balls, and he's taking that confidence. But I do think it felt like to me a game in which he believed in his ability to compete at the highest level. There's been times this season where it felt like he has felt like he's had to kind of hedge his bets a little bit more and not be as front foot, or maybe drop deeper and give someone a bit more space, or because he maybe can't run back as fast as he can. This was a game where he was like, no, I feel like I can deal with everything that David Brooks is going to throw at me right now, and he's going to have to deal with me. And it really shone through.
I know Atra moving into that area as well.
Yeah. And I think that's the kind of Robertson who we can still get. I feel like we have to manage him a little bit more, but I definitely think that he can still be a contributor to this team at its best for this season and at least another one to come. And those are the kind of games in which he will probably be able to feel that in himself. If he had any doubts, which I'm not 100% sure he would have, but if he did, then that was the kind of game where he's like, no, still got it.
The goalkeeper, Mo, is just exceptional. He's in this one, he was, again, I mentioned engaged before with Robertson. I think that there's a thing about Allison when he's at his very best, is that he feels like he's the most engaged person on the pitch with everything that's happening in all phases, and just desperate to come alive in a way, like knows it's not good for the team if he has to, but when it's there, he is going to be the first to react to everything. And I thought that this was another really good example of that.
It was one of those games where if there had been people who were thinking, well, maybe I don't have to put the most perfect shot in every time I'm against Allison, then maybe I can hedge my bets a little bit. That's gone. He is still that guy. You still have to put it on the postage stamp in the far corner if you want to beat him every time. And the thing I love about Allison is when he plays like this is that he takes chances away from players before they even realise they have a chance. So the one where people say, "Oh, Semenyo had a heavy touch," like he had a heavy touch because he saw this big green monster flying towards him, and that's the proactivity of the way that he's so good. I think is what I love about him, but it just adds to the line of our defence when we've got the players in front of them who are already playing well, but they know that they're under the cosh. The fact that they also know that if they make a little mistake, then the guy behind them is still an absolute rock, then that just gives everybody that 2% more confidence. And yeah, I love the combination between his size and imposing nature, but his calmness. And that's pretty much exactly what I want in a goalkeeper all the time. I want them to be big enough to scare someone, but also calm enough to not have to try and scare someone every time. And yeah, this Allison, as long as he stays fit, will be very, very important for the rest of the season.
Yeah, I think you're absolutely spot on. But the proactive element is his greatest asset. I mean, you see him make a Gordon Banks-like save when the weight's on the wrong foot on the deflection late on, and that's the highlights reel goal save. It's incredible. But I preferred the Semenyo one, which is nothing to do with Semenyo's touch. It's to do with his timing. Yep. Now, that's. If you're wrong, you're half a second too late or too early, that's probably a goal or a penalty given away. The greatest goalkeepers have got that proactive timing thing exactly right, and he's the best at it I've ever seen. I think I've loved Kelleher's performances in it, but where you can see the difference is in that timing. There's even a bit, I think, is it in the second half? No, the first half where they knock a ball over the top, and I'm watching it on telly. I'm going, oh shit! They've just put one right over over Robertson, and they're in. But there he is.
It was the second half. I remember it.
Was it second?
Yeah. There was definitely one second half.
Okay,
there might be two.
There's definitely one in the first half. I'm thinking,
made your points even better.
Yeah, but this is one. If you're not good at that, you've made an absolute chump of yourself. Like
Robert Sanchez against City.
The Haaland goal. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I think he didn't. I wouldn't say he was exactly wobbling in his first few appearances back, but he's gained his rhythm back now, and it does make you think what the plan is with the Georgian goalkeeper Mohamed next season. Because I quite frankly would like to see Allison for a good 5 more years, and I don't see why not.
Yeah, I thought it felt obvious earlier that the goalkeeping position had sort of been set up in a way on Saturday. I felt in terms of how he was. It felt like he was, as you mentioned, then he was more aggressive off his line. His use of the ball was, at times, it felt like it was a bit more direct. I think there was. It felt like, and I might be completely wrong, but it felt like there were more kicks out of his hand quickly than I'd seen a lot
all
this season.
Over the pitch. When I said before about Salah gets the most touches from a Liverpool point of view, I think that's really interesting. There wasn't the centre halves are not keeping the ball. They weren't popping it into McAllister. Yeah. We're not doing that because we know what these do. Phil, there was a lot of we're just going to miss this out. Yeah. Whoever it is who gets it, feel free to miss it out, and he was a massive part of that as well.
And it felt like that possibly engaged him a little bit more in terms of, oh, hang on, I'm into this today. I'm switched on. I know I've got a role here. It's not just a case of, oh, well, I'll put my foot on the ball and see where the space is, and then I'll try and lure the centre forward to close me down. Like, I don't really remember the centre forward who was playing for Bournemouth closing him down and putting him under pressure on the ball at any point, because he didn't seem to have any interest in doing it, which is a complete opposite to what we've been asking the goalkeeper to do this season. The goalkeeper's been doing a lot of baiting centre forwards and then shifting it to whichever centre back he can, and then the centre back can work it into the midfield, or he can work it wide, or he can do whatever. There didn't seem to me to be a lot of that. I would be interested to see what the pass map looked like relative to other games.
You can't do it against that kind of intensity press. The washing machine press.
Exactly, and that's like, it sort of felt like it's a difference between the managers the last 2 seasons. Like, I kind of think that Klopp may have just gone, right, this is how we play, not Ange Postecoglou style, but would have gone, this is how we play, and we're good at this, we'll keep doing it, and it might not work. Whereas Saturday was a bit like, right, we're adapting, we're going to do this, and it worked very well. And I think the goalkeeper's part in it was huge, because there were 3 or 4 where he's just caught the ball and it's gone quickly, and that really has felt at odds with the sort of managed I don't. I would nearly use the word slow then, and I don't think slow is quite the right word for it. But sort of measured is probably better in terms of how we've asked the goalkeeper to use the ball this season. Saturday, it felt like it was a bit like, right, there's a space, I'm going to exploit it, and it was fitting with the whole team as well. So it felt like a whole process thought out in terms of start here, go from there.
We seemed set up to win the second ball as well.
Yes.
In that he'd do a lot of... He wasn't just going long. He was often chipping it into to a wide player or chipping it into the middle of the park with the guy facing his own goal.
Like taking one of their lines out the game, basically.
Yeah, but I noticed when our guy would immediately come under pressure, we were ready for the second ball. There was somebody backing up. So if Diaz was facing his own goal, receiving it under pressure, he'd have Gravenberch or Soboslai sweeping up behind him. It was cleverly thought out.
Well, on Diaz, Rob,
yeah,
it's thankless, I think, what he was asked to do in a number of ways. So we can thank him here. I thought he was very, very good at it. So we can get that out the way. I think it's striking to me in the wider Liverpool conversation about buying a forward, whether it's January, which now looks very, very unlikely unless something's markedly changed to be sat in this room, or going right the way ahead to the summer. There is, there's a lot of chat. I know Paul Gorse sort of wrote something over the weekend, which was, Liverpool will definitely be in the market for a number 9 in the summer and all that sort of stuff. One of the things, though, is, Diaz has gone central and he was in a pretty solid bit of goal-scoring form. And now he isn't. The goals have dried up. And, when I think about the performances, the context of the entire season, 3 Liverpool players have played centre-forward in the league this season. None of them have been prolific. And apart from Crystal Palace away, when I think Jota gets 3 really good chances, scores one of them, I don't feel as though those chances have been flowing constantly all the way through either. My point is more, and it's one that sort of lays in the groundwork for future conversations and summer conversations. This is a big style of play point. Whoever it is who's playing number 9 for Liverpool is actually not the person who is served by Liverpool's attack. And it doesn't matter who it is. Our
number 9 is playing on the right wing. That's in the sense that your number 9 is the focal point of your ambitions to score in a football match. Ours plays on the right wing and it's called Mohamed Salah. That you're absolutely right. I thought that all season long, and it has been one of the bigger differences between the sort of last third of last season and the first half of this season. Klopp very much invested in the idea, I think, and it didn't really work, that Núñez was going to do Haaland-like things for us in the tail end of last season. I don't think that suits Núñez's game really. I don't think he's a pure target man at all, and I think, although obviously under Klopp we learn how to use Mo Salah superbly, and Mo Salah would rightly, I think, acclaim Klopp as the most important person in his career, I think we've sort of taken it up a level with Salah, and that has been to, it's not the detriment of the number 9 position, but it means that the goals are drying up. You're right. I've watched Luis Diaz closely over the last few weeks, and I thought, he's not doing anything spectacular, and goals always are the things that sort of crown performances. But his touch is there, his contribution to build-up is always there, his work rate's always there. He's doing nothing wrong. It's almost an interesting sort of, comparison between him and Gakpo, where nominally their best positions are the same side of the pitch. Gakpo's very economical in what you get from Gakpo. It's economical stroke explosive. And then you have those periods where Gakpo can't get himself in the game for one reason or another. Whereas Diaz is giving you this 7 all the way through. Gakpo's flitting from sort of below a 6 to a 9. It's very interesting. I think the combination of the two really helps us. I think the bottom line, I was planning our transfer show, our gutter transfer show earlier, and I thought, further to your point about Paul Gorst and Liverpool being in for a number 9, I thought, we still have 6 players, a front set of options, 6 options for our front 3 positions, which remain the envy of Europe. I think if we decided we want any one of those lads has the quality to be our main man, should we choose for that to happen up to a point. And I would be slow to I wouldn't, let's put it this way, I wouldn't be rushing to replace anyone.
I think a lot of it depends upon if you gave Slot free rein and said, what do you want from your number 9 to do? Whether or not he is just doing really well at getting a serviceable job from the guy in that position, or whether or not there are other qualities that he would like from a guy in that position. Because you're right to say that we haven't been creating the chances for that guy. So if you think about Diaz last season, a lot of the knock against him when he wasn't playing well is that he was missing a lot of chances. He was doing great, getting himself into position, but he was missing chances. Since he's been playing in number 9, he hasn't been missing chances. He hasn't been getting chances. Like, I can think of probably the header against Brentford is the only time where you think, oh, he probably could have scored that, and that was dead early on.
Maybe from the set piece here at the start, but that's dead early on, and it's also a set piece. So it's also a set piece.
Exactly.
No, I think it's really striking.
And Szoboszlai's the key, I think.
But also,
by the way,
if you think about Slot has been very vocal in terms of how he doesn't see individuals in positions, he sees position. So when someone asked him about Núñez is scoring or Mo Salah scoring or Gakpo or Diaz, he'd be like, we were scoring from the left wing, scoring from the right wing, scoring from the 9 position. Back in September, he was saying we need to do a better job of creating chances for our number 9. Yeah. We are still having the same problem in February. So that's probably the only issue that we've got that he hasn't solved yet. So maybe that's where he's thinking about maybe bringing someone else in who can do something. But again, the style of play question is a big thing, because it's like, if you're servicing those two and those two are doing really well, how do you then service the central one without lessening the impact of those two? Because the absolute last thing you want to do is to make it harder for Mo Salah and Cody Gakpo to score. Because at the moment, it's working. And the stuff that Diaz is doing in the game, it's not flashy, but it is helping. It
really helped that strategy we talked about before, to go a lot more often missing people out. He drops off the front, plays in the gap between the centre-backs and the centre midfielders, wins it, holds it, we drop anchor, and then we go from there.
It's the keeping hold of the ball part that I really liked in that game against Bournemouth, because there are so many times where if he doesn't keep hold of that ball and it keeps going back to the opposition, then we can't get out. And there's been times towards the beginning of the year when we weren't as fluent. When that was happening, it wasn't sticking up front. This game, it's stuck. And so that was what told me, okay, he can keep doing this job.
On the heat maps, is Szoboszlai higher than Diaz in recent weeks? It looks that way.
Every now and again, they're often level. But I think Szoboszlai ends up getting, because the way it works, because it's just an average position, because Szoboszlai will do more stuff back in his own final third at key times. Then obviously, because you can't go too mad with this stuff, they're literally just average positions.
Sure.
I think that there's bits of the setup that I think are reminiscent of a couple of Brighton sides, where you look at it afterwards and it's almost like you're playing, you can call it 4-2-4-0. Or you can call it, you can almost say, well, it's 4-2-2-2, but that 2 is Diaz and Szoboszlai, and the 2 that are ahead and they're in the wider area.
Yeah,
I think that's what you're looking at. If you were trying to sort of name the thing, either of those 2, I think, is there or thereabouts.
Yeah, the plan really is to leave 2 centre halves with wondering what they're doing, no one to mark. And Diaz and Szoboszlai basically swelling numbers in midfield and then enabling at the right trigger to flood the central positions with midfield players. I think that's why Bournemouth were able smartly to use Huijsen to cover Salah and to release Kerkez, because they knew Huijsen wasn't actually going to be marking anyone directly.
While you've been talking, I was doing some
quick math,
very basic stats and research. So last January, Núñez played 3 league games and he had 22 shots in the 3 league games. Him and Jota between them this season in 15-90s have had 50 shots. That is the complete. That's the complete polar opposite of what players are being asked to do. And it tells you it's a really simplistic way of saying that the centre forward in this team is not there to put the ball in the goal. If they do, as Núñez did at Brentford, when we played in a way that we service the centre forward in a way we just haven't all season, then great. But the centre forward is there to enable the 2 wide players, and it just looks so simple, and it makes the man that they're targeting this summer quite interesting, I think, because I think people will be like, right, we'll go out and we'll get this goal scorer. Well, if we're playing like this, that's not the player who's coming in. It's a sort of, I don't even want to say it's a Firmino style player, because I don't even think it's a Firmino role. It's a really interesting proposition for the summer, I think, in terms of what this player does and who it is, because it's going to be someone, because I just don't, it isn't a Núñez or Jota job for me, and I don't think it's a long-term Diaz job either. He's fine with it, but it's not. Sometimes some of the attacking stuff doesn't look quite as natural to him, which is absolutely fine and to be expected. He's doing a very good job. But again, this is also one thing that's quite exciting about this. You can see how this team is much better next season, and that's quite scary given where we are.
Okay, I want to move on with the subs, Phil, in this one. It's rare you make 4 changes and they all bring exactly what you want them to do. I think first and foremost what all 4 of them brought was aggression, one way or another. I thought Jones was exceptional, genuinely, and the press resistant point that Rob was making before, I think one of the things that he actually did really well, and he nearly gets caught once, don't get me wrong, but he actually draws the press. Yeah. It's not so by virtue of him suddenly being harassed by 2, he backs himself, he's going to keep it, and we're going to find a pocket and we're going to go from there. I thought Nunez pinned them and gave them a nightmare. He suddenly becomes such a different proposition. I thought Bradley basically said to Semenyo, you've been having this a bit all your own way. Come with me, which I thought really helped at that point in time, and backed himself to get back and caused them both really massive problems. And then Endo just ran around after the ball, which I was really into. Just basically his instruction appeared to be act like you're 8, charge around all over the pitch, wherever the football is, that's where I want you to be. But all 4 of those things that I've described there, it's all about aggression, and that's what all of them brought.
Yeah, I think the subs, I think when you looked at their bench, you realised that if we got to sort of 60 in control, it'd be very hard for them to get back into it on the simple grounds that their substitutes were. There was one lad, and it was then Daniel Jebison, who I know someone who supports Watford who describes him one of the worst players he's ever seen on loan.
Worked hard.
He worked hard, but in terms of, I'm just going off of what one of Watford fans told me from earlier this season, and not very good. I've got completely blank, can't remember who the other sub that came on. Tavernier, of course it was. Here's the post when Clive misses. Have you seen? Did you see that, by the way, that the exact same thing happened against Man City last season?
Yeah,
when they cut inside shot, and then it was Adam Smith who missed pretty much the exact same open goal. It was like literally the same thing. It was really interesting.
I think it's a harder chance than people are giving it credit for. It's going at some pace,
but also
spinning.
And I thought Konate does excellently well, because he basically he removed the concept of them being able to roll it along the floor, because I think he would have blocked it if he had done. So it has to be high, and once you're talking about hitting a bouncing ball and you're trying to get it to go in sort of between 3 feet and 8.5 feet out of the higher crossbar, it makes it so hard, and he missed it. If he probably can't do much more to score than hope for the best, I don't think.
He's waiting for it to sit down, isn't he? And the hesitation.
100%. But like, going back to the subs, I thought they all offered, and having that strength on the bench is it's so big. I mean, you looked at the bench, you looked at their bench. I think I'd heard of 2 of their players. I couldn't have told you which one was the sub goalkeeper.
No, same.
Like I could have had 6 guesses, and it would have been the 7th man.
It wasn't Travers. Travers wasn't on the bench.
I think he's gone, hasn't he?
Yeah,
has he gone?
He's gone on loan. He's gone on loan. But you sort of looked at that and you thought, right, well, if we can run them for the first hour, make their life hard, and then you bring these 4 on who did more of the running, who did more of, like, the centre-backs, for example. I thought their centre-backs were both very good on the ball in terms of what they offered, but because of how we played, most of the game was played in front of them. You put Darwin Núñez on and you've gone from Diaz dropping off and players being in front of you to suddenly having to think, hang on, he's going in behind me, and you've got to think about it, what he's doing, and it made their life a little bit harder. They sort of got 5 to 10 yards deeper, which slightly disconnected them from the midfield. But it meant that then you bring on Jones and you bring on Endo's aggression, and it meant that they can make their life hard. It felt like it sort of almost like a bit of game of chess, where you sort of move your 4 pieces into position, and it sort of puts them further away from where they need to be, and it makes them more spread out, and everything we did just made our life easier over the course of that sort of last half hour, I thought, with the subs, and I thought they were all absolutely superb.
Just wouldn't say a word against any of them, just briefly, Mo.
No, and again, it's massive at this stage of the season, because we are getting into the stage where we are going to find it harder to say, oh, well, this game doesn't matter, we can rest and we can rotate. So if we're going to need to utilise the squad, we're going to need to have starting 11s in quote-unquote big games that aren't just the best 11 players we've got at our disposal. So when you can have 4 guys who come onto the pitch and elevate the performance in their own individual way, that helps the manager say, okay, well, next time you can get in from the start and I can trust you to be able to do the job that I need you to do.
The other thing about the bench, Rob, was it didn't have Chiesa or Gomez on. And in the context of sort of transfers, it is transfer deadline day, we think...
I find it interesting it was... Gomez, Quanta instead of Gomez. I think that's quite interesting.
I think that for now, firstly it's the vote of confidence, but also secondly, I think in the back of his mind he'll be thinking he took his time with Allison. I think he'll be taking his time.
Yeah, it's quite possible.
When he's got the luxury to do it, I think he'll do it
fair.
And do that. But no Gomez, no Chiesa on the bench. Looks like it will be a loan for Jaden Danns. We're going to do it the gutter in a minute. No loan for McConnell is the thing that's come out, so you'd expect him to therefore get Bournemouth. I'm intrigued to see if Morton moves today.
Tyler Morton, I would think McConnell, I was trying to work out if McConnell had actually definitively moved ahead of Morton in that he was picked versus PSV, whereas Morton wasn't. I don't know.
But he was off the back of an injury, Morton, so you're not quite sure.
Well, exactly, yeah. And sorry, Phil, you can.
Sorry, I was just going to say on Tyler Morton, he took with about 5 to 10 left, he took a really self-indulgent shot at PSV. So I watched it. He could have played Chiesa basically 3-1 with the keeper, and he has a shot from about 20 yards down. Like that looked like a man trying to score before he leaves Liverpool forever. I was like, I don't mind it. I didn't mind him doing it. I was like, I had to do exactly the same, but it looked very much like if you'd have asked him to do that 100 times in other games before, 100 times he would have passed the ball to Chiesa. But this one, he was like, I'm having a go here, and I think the keeper just about saved it. I think it looked like that.
I think against PSV, he might have had in his mind that he'd like to have had something off the bench to not make it necessarily worse, because we were thin with that squad against PSV, and I think he thought Morton's relative experience might have actually helped late in the game. So I don't think it was a vote of I'm picking McConnell ahead of Morton necessarily, but McConnell's performance was exceptional. I'm excited to see him stay and see what can happen there, and I do think Tyler Morton, well, I think it'd probably be good for him if he got a move now. I don't know. We passed the stage we think Tyler Morton will make it at Liverpool. I think we probably are, because he's not 18 anymore. What is he, 21 now?
He might even be 22, you know?
Yeah, so you kind of got to knock the door.
He's had 2 good loans as well.
He's a good footballer, and there's still a chance he makes a solid Premier League career for himself, and I hope he does, but I don't think he's going to stay at Liverpool much longer.
It's a window, though, Mo, where I think it's a reminder that players want to stay. I think this is going to be borne in mind a little bit. Elliott, for instance, has made a big point of it. Wants to stay, wants to remain part of everything that's going on here at the moment. And I'll say again, they've got a lot of players. I think there's going to need to be some movement in the summer, because I think there needs to be a refresh, a little bit of a refresh in the summer.
Because there's literally no space for anybody else at the minute.
Yeah,
in terms of the Premier League rules.
Exactly, and this is the thing.
One foreigner space have we got?
But we've got more English. We've literally, as we stand now, for next season, we have 25 players that we can register.
Right, okay.
Because a couple of the younger lads are becoming senior.
Like Elliott, Quansah, and Bradley, I think, all become older, so need register next season. Yeah. This season they've been playing for free, whereas next season they're additionally in the squad. So we basically at the minute have exactly 25 players for next season.
So we've almost got to sell and buy like for like.
Absolutely.
Wow.
And I think the point about this is that players want to stay. They've got contracts. Well, apart from 3 of them, but we're not doing that today.
Come on, Dale.
I'm trying to wrap this show up, Mo. Here, I've got Tottenham to do. I don't want to talk about Arsenal, so I'm late already. I said we'll finish by 5:12. There is a little bit of a thing there where it's got to be borne in mind. That said, that isn't the reason why Liverpool shouldn't do anything. And the manager has said they already feel advanced for summer.
Yeah, I think so, and I think the contract situation of so many of the squad is fascinating in the context of that as well, because
no one's got more than 3 years left.
No, and there's only about 6 who've got more than 2 years left.
Yep.
So there's lots of
like the anti-Manchester United.
Yeah, exactly. There's going to be a big old game of deal or no deal happening in the boardroom over the course of the summer, and what happens between now and the summer may well have a massive influence on all those things. Like Phil mentioned Tyler there, and how what he did may make a difference. I don't blame him. I wonder if Arne Slot feels the same though. Because he would have noted that as well. And these are the kind of things where you think a manager's starting to think, well, okay, can I use this person? Am I going to need something else? But no one right now wants to leave Liverpool. People might think, well, okay, I don't want to be 5th choice forward or 4th choice centre back or 3rd choice right back and left back, but they all want to win the league. They all want to win the Champions League. They all want to be a part of one of the potentially best seasons in Liverpool's history. So they're not leaving now.
There we are. Tottenham, he does the same team, doesn't he? Depending on Trent's fitness.
Yeah, I think so. I think we're in a situation now where Plymouth buys him the ability to say, okay, we're going to give this game the respect that it deserves, because we need to win to get to a final. And say what you want about the League Cup, regardless of it's the least important trophy. It's the next trophy. It's the first trophy of the season. It's the one he gets to win first. So I don't think that he will be jeopardising any future endeavours by playing a strong team. But
Trent is the question.
Yeah, but as I mentioned before, having those players to come off the bench means that he doesn't have to play them till 75, 85, 95 minutes. He can still say, okay, I can make changes at 65, 70 and still feel like we can win this game.
I wouldn't be shocked by Nunes personally. I think the first leg and the way they played was, I think we'd have probably been better if we'd have had his ability to go over the top and run in behind. The only thing is, maybe I watched them yesterday. I thought it was really interesting that the whole "we are what we are" and etc. and all Ange Postecoglou's sound bites were thrown right out the window yesterday, and Tottenham looked a very, very different team, and it sort of looked a bit like a team who were sort of practicing coming away from home and having
they
a
were
bit of
different to the first leg anyway. They played very different in the first leg.
But I also think we enabled that with the way we played, and I think we wanted the game to be quite boring, and we nearly got exactly what we went for and come back to Anfield and beat them, and it didn't quite work in the end. Whereas I do wonder if you sort of might have to turn it a little bit mad and try and lure them out, and ultimately we get an early goal, and any plan they've got goes straight out the window. I think you start Nunes, you've got two options then on the left wing. You've got to remember it's 120 minutes potentially, and
so is Plymouth. Yeah,
exactly. And throw in, I think starting with your two left wing options when a game might go 120 minutes is possibly not the best idea.
Yeah, and 10 changes for Plymouth. I think it'll be Rob and then the derby on the horizon. It's mad that they made the last ever Goodison derby, the biggest game in our history, but here we are.
Yeah, it's interesting that the next one is so hot on its heels as well. It feels like a real kind of two-legged affair, that one. I don't even want to get involved with that. The Tottenham thing, I think they'll give us a hell of a game. I mean, whatever kind of a season they've had, I was listening to you guys on the Friday night, the Friday show the other night. They quietly got a lot to play for. They could achieve some sort of respectability in the league if they stabilise, stop the rot in terms of losing games. They could win the thing in Europe, whatever it's called, and
the Europa League.
Oh, it's the Europa, not in the conference. Okay, well, the Europa would be a good thing to win. I think are the joint favourites.
Champions League place as well.
Yeah, Champions League place. Joint. Yeah. So if they came out, they're 2 games from winning a trophy, which would be an incredible thing for them, and they could go to a European final, maybe even win it. So. And they've got a lead against the best team in Europe at the moment. It's a thing to hang on to, and I think they are stupid, but in this instance, I think they'll know we're 1-0 up here. And let's not throw the baby out with the bathwater. I tend to agree with Phil. I think there might be that Nunes change. I don't think even if Trent's even if they're positive on Trent, they'll risk him with a muscle injury.
Give him a week off.
Give him a week off. There's no harm in doing that at all. And Conor Bradley probably could do with some more games in his legs.
Yeah, I would agree.
All in on all the above. All right then. Arsenal get the big win in the end. Mo City went off a cliff in the game like lemmings in the legendary Psygnosis created Liverpool computer game Lemmings.
I never knew that was created here.
Yeah.
I used to love that game.
Yeah, it's brilliant. Psygnosis was based out of Liverpool in Wavertree, and City went off the cliff like that. But the point is that Arsenal will be feeling very, very, very North London forever about the whole thing.
They still nearly messed it up though. Well, they still nearly messed it up because the point I really find fascinating is that yes, they took an early lead, and yes, they can maybe say, well, City conceded an early goal against Chelsea and still managed to come back into it. Look at the kind of goal it was, though. It was the kind of goal that says that we don't feel very confident about ourselves right now. It's the kind of goal that if you're a team who's been playing poorly and you concede a really shocking goal like that, you think, oh, goodness sake. So when I went to see Everton play against Tottenham conceded an early goal, very similar to that, and they folded like a house of cards because Everton saw that, scented blood, and went after them. Arsenal absolutely did not. Yep. They still sat on their hands, and it was only when they got lucky. They got so lucky.
I would love to have seen that game goal without Foden giving that ball away because I agree completely. I didn't think Arsenal were very good at all. I thought City were growing into the game and finding it really comfortable. I think their constant stupidity was winding me up in terms of they were like, oh, we've got they had them a bit rattled, and then all of a sudden Kai Havertz just threw 1-on-1 with the keeper again because they've just given him the ball, and you're just a bit like, come on, like, what are you playing at here? The thing is, they've got that game out the way now, and they get the potential confidence boost from it, but they play it like against Bournemouth, for example. I don't think they beat Bournemouth the way they started that game. Like, they were very sort of. They looked like they played with a bit of fear for me. Yeah. In terms of what they did in the first half, it was a bit like
we've got confidence, doesn't it? They can tell each other the story.
100%. 100%. It's just a case of they've got to kick it up a level. I think because I'm looking at how many wins do you think we need from here?
12.
You think 12?
9.
Well, no, that's officially.
I think 9. No, 12 officially, but I mean in terms of
9.
12 is assuming they win every game, isn't it? And win at Anfield, because if a draw at Anfield against them for us is effectively a win, isn't it? In terms of how the maths work. I'm with Rob. I think 9 wins it from here for us. In terms of they've got a 5-game run, sort of when the Champions League gets back going. I think they play Forest, There's a 5-run game, and I can't quite remember exactly who it is. I took a screenshot. There's a 5-run game that'll be really tough for them.
My position remains my position, which has been all the way through the season. You win the league by looking like you can get 90 points. That doesn't mean you're going to need to get 90 points in the end, but you need to look like you get 90. And Liverpool need to get to play 30 and still look like they're going to get 90 points. And if that's the case, then I think Arsenal at some point wilt. But that's the way in which it goes.
I also think that as much confidence as Arsenal can take from being like, okay, well, Liverpool gave us the test and we met it, we kept it close, we stayed in touch, etc., etc. It's another week gone where they don't get to make any kind of headway.
Arsenal have run it over the season at 2.1 points a game roughly. But I checked the last 13. I think they've won 9, drawn 5. Last 14, sorry. They're running at about 2.2, so that they're on sort of an 85 point team at the moment. But we stayed solidly, consistently at 2.35, 2.4 team all season long.
The one thing about that,
looking like 90.
The one thing. Picking their last 14 games, for example, they had a very hard start, didn't they? So their fixtures sort of by default got a little bit easier for a while. But then they've got 5-game run of Forest away, United away, Chelsea at home, Fulham at home, Everton away, which is not a picnic, is it? I certainly don't look at that and go, right, well, that's just 15 points in the same way that people were doing with Chelsea in December. If you remember, when it's they've got 6 games, let's get 18 points. We can make all the jokes we want about Manchester United. We've seen they're capable of against good teams. It's the bad teams they have a problem with, and Arsenal are not a bad team. Forest away on a Tuesday night, that's not, or Wednesday night, that's not fun. Chelsea
they don't
at home,
make enough chances.
So
bad luck can go against them.
Yep, no, I'm with that. I'm with all of that, but it's worth
tough games left.
And it's also I think the games are all about as tough as each other. It's also just worth pointing out they finished last season really strongly in the league, and I think you've got to have that respect. But I think if ultimately Liverpool decide where the finish line is, and that's why in this 2-horse race, Mo, I like our horse.
Yeah, and their horse hasn't won more than 3 games in a row in the league all season.
I think they're going to change that very, very soon. But
they've got Leicester next week. You can give them 3 points,
and there we go.
But they would have said that previously in games, and they haven't.
Have you seen Leicester, Mo?
Leicester, though.
Thanks to all. You all want to keep going, but you're about to sit here and do gutter. Mo's got to get off and everything. Honestly, you should want to do it all the way through, but you're not going to get to. It's been an absolute pleasure. Thank you very much, Milo and Patrick, for looking after the images at the back there. Andy for looking after everything that's come out of people's mouths. Mo, Stewart, Rob Gutmann, and Phil Blundell. It's been an absolute pleasure with the Anfield Wrap this week. The biggest game, the toughest game, the hardest game of the weekend happened at Bournemouth. It did not happen at the fucking Emirates, North London forever.